All right, good morning, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Dziuk, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the OFA, and I'd like to thank you all for setting your alarms so early and joining us so early this morning for using OFA in your practice. I'd like to go ahead and take a moment and introduce who our two speakers are going to be for this morning. First up, we're going to have Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith has a practice outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's one of only a handful of boarded therogenologists that are in small animal private practice. And Dr. Smith also serves as our OFA board president. And then after Dr. Smith, we're going to have Dr. Jerry Bell. Dr. Jerry Bell practices in Connecticut and is besides being a small animal practitioner, is a pretty regular figure on the lecture circuit in terms of genetic testing and population genetics and so forth. Also in Dr. Bell's portion of the presentation, it's going to be a little bit interactive. So if you guys do have your cell phones with you, go ahead and have them on silent, but leave them on. And Dr. Bell will give you some directions in terms of a website address, a text address, or a tweet address for some interactive portion of polling and so forth if you'd like to participate in that. So all that said, once again, welcome. And first up is Dr. Smith.
Good morning and thank you. I would also tell you we have a really exciting thing to announce this morning. Mr. Dziuk, who was just here, his beagle went best in show last night at Westminster Kennel Club. For those of you that are beagle lovers and lovers of beautiful dogs, and I'd also personally like to thank Mr. Dziuk because that's kind of a rare thing, like really rare, like a zebra in Las Vegas. Well, maybe that's not even the right place. Something more exotic than a zebra in Las Vegas. So for him to be here and miss that event, that shows you how devoted we are to all of you veterinarians. So what I'm going to tell you about today is how you can use OFA in your practice. The good thing about us is we're not here to sell you anything. We're here to educate you and give you some opportunities for you and your clients. So what's the most important thing that the public should be thinking about when purchasing a purebred puppy, or for that reason, any puppy? Health. Look at that little Chihuahua, smart one. I like those. So the responsibility to improve the genetic health of domestic animals rests with, and Dr. Bell will tell you what to do.
Okay, this is your first poll question. The easiest way to do the polls is if you can go to a web address on a web page on your device and go to pollev.com/ofa.wvc. And this poll will come up. If you're texting, the address you're texting to is 22333. And then in the body of the text, you're going to type in one of the keywords, VETER, BREDR, BRORG, or public. And if you tweet, you tweet at poll with one of those keywords, and that should come up. So far we have nobody that's
Tweeting?
That's put in an answer yet. Let me push this and make sure it's pushed through. We've got one person. Okay. So the responsibility to improve the genetic health of domestic animals rests with which of these four groups? The major responsibility.
Please select one answer, right?
Yep. We've got 5 here. Let's go up to about...
All right.
And then once you're on that web page, for all the other questions, they'll just pop up automatically, or you're using that same text message stream.
Coming up now, 10.
Okay, we have 10 answers, so let's see what our results are here. Okay, so we've got a split poll between the veterinarians and breeders, and then a couple people that are answering breed organizations. If you want to keep on putting your answers in, that will change dynamically. Dr. Smith.
All right. So in order to manage genetic disease, we have to have a strategy. The best way to produce genetically healthy offspring is selection of genetically healthy parents through health screening. Realize all genetic disease cannot be prevented, However, we have knowledge and tools to improve the genetic health of puppies. What role do you play? As a veterinarian, you can be a significant source of information to the breeder. You can influence the decision to breed dogs at all, to breed dogs ethically. And when I say that, in your practice, you will have people come to you and say, I want to breed this dog. I think it's wise to ask why. And if they want to, then to educate them as to the steps that they should take to make sure that they are responsibly producing those puppies. You're a significant source of information to the prospective owner as well, what to look for in a breeder and how to purchase a puppy. I would caution your clients to be careful when they're shopping on the internet. An internet website can look like a genius website, and instruct them to look for health screening and published health results. Throughout history, following the domestication of dogs, man has shaped dogs to the desired size, shape, behavior, and temperaments through selective breeding. It's the most genetically engineered species on the planet. We have from our little pugs, who I adore, the giant wolfhound, the little chihuahua, and the borzoi. We have dogs of all shapes and size. Why do we do that? Because we as people want that. People get dogs that they want, that have appeal. This happens to be my pug, whose name is Hobo. He's a pretty classic pug. I'm a pretty high-stress person, and listening to the soft snoring of a pug can be very soothing. He also can make me laugh when I've had a horrible day. I'm a Labrador breeder, but this guy is kind of my little soulmate. Genetic disease accounts for 25% of all canine disease processes. And genetic disease incidence is the most common genetic disease. It's as frequently diagnosed in crossbred dogs as in purebred dogs. So don't fall into the idea of thinking that crossbred dogs necessarily are free of genetic traits. Purebred dogs have predictable physical traits. They have fairly consistent behavior and temperament. Purebred dogs are often health screened prior to breeding. And if you read George Paget's book, you can find that crossbred dogs truly have 215 reported genetic disease predispositions. A doodle, a Labradoodle, can have all of the genetic issues of a Labrador or a poodle, and in some cases increased if you happen to accidentally for a trait that both have. So managing genetic disease, is there an effective screening tool? This is what you're going to ask yourselves and remind your clients of. Not always. For instance, there's no screening tool for bloat. There's no screening for epilepsy. I'm sure you see epilepsy in all sizes and shapes, mixes of breeds and purebred breeds. And then additionally, there are complications that arise from late onset diseases. Where do you go for breed-specific testing information? Dr. Bell's going to poll you here.
Okay, so this is a free-form poll, so whatever you're going to type in the box that has come up on your cell phone there, or if you're texting, you're going to text infos, I-N-F-O-S, space, and then anything you type after infos is going to come up on the screen. And so we're just going to see where you get your information on breed-specific testing. So one person has said OFA. Now, we're not just looking for everyone to put in OFA. Where else?
Where else?
University, the OFA website, labs, UC Davis, so some of the veterinary genetic testing laboratories, VIN, good source of information, OFA and VIN, popular literature. Sometimes the breeder comes in and says, I need this test run on my breed. It's the first time we hear of it because things are changing all of the time. Okay, thank you.
So what's a dog breeder? The dictionary definition is simply someone who breeds dogs. Dogs are purebred or mixed breed, purposeful or accidental. You may be interested to know that greater than 90% of the puppies that are born in the United States every year are the result of either accidental or casual breeding. Who breeds dogs? What motivates them and how educated are they? Accidental means, I just didn't know that how to tell when a female was in heat, and now she's been bred and I think she might be pregnant. In my practice, occasionally we see somebody who's had an accidental breeding 5 days in a row. Once it's that level, it's probably no longer accidental. The casual backyard breeder, they typically have no health testing prior to breeding. Their selection criteria is based on convenience. Two buddies who hunt together, one has a black lab bitch, the other one has a dog. Oh, that'd be kind of fun to have puppies. The motivation there is either financial or emotional. In the case of the guys with the Labradors, it's probably emotional because they think they have the world's greatest hunting dog. The commercial high-volume breeders, that's a business. And then there's the purposeful hobby breeders, which would be people like Dr. Bell and I, and Mr. Dziuk, although he doesn't breed dogs very often. We're motivated by passion for the breed, thoughtful selection, and a desire to achieve quality. Does not, though, inherently equate to responsible breeders. There are some in that group who don't do such a great job. Health. Commitment to health issues goes beyond providing puppies with their first shots and worming them. No one who breeds dogs, including the commercial breeders, want puppies that will eventually go blind, lame, or have seizures. But the actions that they take initially in their screening processes can minimize inherited disease and are defining the characteristics of serious, dedicated, responsible breeders. Selection criteria is based on conformation traits, the beauty contest, what makes a beagle look like a beagle, what makes a Labrador look like a Labrador, soundness, temperament, pedigrees, working ability, and they need to include health. No, none of your clients want to go out and get a dog that is going to have continual health problems. This is my granddaughter when she was quite a bit younger. Here's an example of type breed and health. That bitch is Polly. She had a C-section 1 day earlier due to an event, and with proper Labrador temperament, she's allowing that child to hold her puppy. Now, and that would be proper Labrador temperament. Not all breeds would be that way, but she was selected for being trusting and kind with people. When I think of the OFA,
Okay, so our next poll question, when I think of the OFA, what do you think of? And if you're texting, the keyword is OFAS space and then whatever your answer is, or if you're looking at the web page, just type it into that little box. Hip and elbow x-rays, hip dysplasia, radiographic standardization, hip certifications, certifying hips, elbows, hip rads, hips, elbows, thyroid, cardiac, and elbows. So pretty standard what we have been known for all along, and what we're going to share with you today is so much more of what we do and what we can help you with in your practices.
The Orthopedic Foundation for Animals is a not-for-profit organization. It was established in 1966. It was the result of the philanthropist John Olin's dedication to the sporting breeds. John Olin was an avid sportsman who had Labradors, and he had great concern over some of the arthritic conditions that plagued his Labradors as they aged, and so his early money helped start the OFA. Our objectives are to collate and disseminate information concerning orthopedic and genetic disease of animals, to advise, encourage, and establish control programs to lower the incidence of orthopedic and genetic disease, to encourage and finance research in orthopedic and genetic disease, and to receive funds and to make grants to carry out these objectives. Our objectives are met through a core service, which is radiographic evaluation by board-certified veterinary radiologists for hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, leg calf Berthies disease, and shoulder OCD. OFA databases and website provide a tool to breeders to make more informed breeding decisions. And as we get further on in this talk, Dr. Bell will tell you how to do some pedigree analysis, et cetera. So these original objectives all had to do with phenotypic disease. We've gotten far more sophisticated. Grant funding, we have funded nearly $3 million in research aimed at helping animals to be healthier, identifying, screening, and reducing inherited companion animal disease. The OFA functions as a voluntary diagnostic service. Dr. Bell and Mr. Zook and I just were in Germany for a conference, and a difference from Europe to here is our diagnostic tests for breeding animals are all voluntary. We have a data bank for genetic health status for dogs and cats, and we are the world's largest animal health database, containing genetic information. Our mission today has expanded as our world has expanded to improve the health and well-being of companion animals through a reduction in the incidence of genetic disease. These are our phenotypic, I would say, databases: hip dysplasia, elbows, patella luxation, congenital cardiac disease, thyroid, congenital deafness, sebaceous adenitis, and shoulder OCD. I think an important point that I don't have a slide on is you should know that when a database is established, we go to the experts in that area to help decide what the best tests are. We don't arbitrarily, as OFA, say, this is your test. We go to the people who can advise us. We have DNA databases for genetic diseases. These are all mutation tests, and with these diseases, we can identify dogs that are clear of mutations that are carriers, and that based on 2 recessive genes are likely to be affected. There are many, many others, and there's huge research, as you know, in these areas. The OFA website is your most complete source of information, www.offa.org. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bell now, who will move on.
Thank you. So I want to walk you through the OFA website and let you know what resources that you have available to you. I just have that list, please. Okay. All right, so the website is www.offa.org. That is going to change at some point, but for right now, that's what it is. And so this is the OFA webpage, and it's set up to give you some information that's going on, relevant news. There's an article here that we wrote in the Veterinary Journal. It's very, very interesting if you want to understand a little bit more about hip dysplasia and elbow dysplasia and how they're inherited. It looks at over 500,000 x-rays of dogs whose parents were also both OFA radiographed, and shows you how hip dysplasia is purely inherited as a quantitative trait, health surveys, and so forth. Up top here, we have information that is available to you. I want to start with the reports and statistics. So we can look at the database statistics for any breed if someone wants to ask you about their breed and what kind of health statistics there are. Someone shout out a name of a breed, please. Beagle, okay. So if we go down to Beagle right here, and we want to show stats, and I'll blow that up a little bit for us. So right now they have a cardiac, of the number of evaluations seen, cardiac, they have 99.6% are normal. On hip radiographs, 17.7 have some form of hip dysplasia. Patella luxation, of those being screened, 3.1%. And these are not necessarily the actual frequency of disease because it's a very biased sample in terms of only those people that send in their information. And we do know with OFA there's a lot of pre-screening, so that as veterinarians we tend not to send in information on affected individuals. For those evaluations where the OFA does not have to hire a specialist to evaluate, like a hip radiograph or an elbow radiograph, but where you're doing the evaluation, a patella, cardiac, so forth, if there are abnormal results, it does not cost the breeder owner anything to submit that form and get it into the OFA database. We'll talk a little bit more about that. They do have a DNA test for Muslin-Luque syndrome, where 9.5% are testing as carrier. They've got 8% abnormal thyroid disease. standpoint. If you want to look at the stats for all breeds, for hips, for example, you can look at that, and we have that for thyroid and cardiac and the other databases as well. And it gives you the total database from day one at OFA, and then the trend of the last 5 years. And we will be updating that through the 2015 results at the end of this year. And so it tells you if your dysplastics is going down from previously, then that's telling us a trend of improvement in the breed. Under surveys, the OFA runs breed health surveys online for parent breed clubs that anybody, any owner, they don't have to be a member of a dog club, can fill out a health survey on their dog. Someone please name a breed? Golden Retrievers. So if we want to see the Golden Retriever health survey, or if you have a client that has a Golden Retriever and wants to fill out a survey if their dog has some health issues, you can have them answer the survey and click through the answers there. Or if you want to see the results live time on that health survey, you just click See Results. And what we have here are the questions on that survey, and the survey questions are standard to start with and then modified based on the needs of the breed club. So you have lots of questions about lifestyle here that they're answering, and ages, and so forth, where they live, and then you get down to some of the health problems. Has a dog been diagnosed with hemangio, liver cancer, lung cancer, lympho, malignant melanoma, and it shows the percentages here that have been diagnosed with those disorders. Those are just general signs: eye disorders, gastrointestinal, ear disorders, and so forth. And then you get down to the nitty-gritty: what types of cancers with their percentages, spleen, heart, obviously looking at hemangio there, and other types of questions: what types of benign cancers, GI disorders, cardiac disorders, eye disorders. So it gets into very much of the specifics. So the health surveys are a very important part of identifying where problems can lie. When you want to recommend to your clients to have their health screening done, a lot of that health screening is being done by boarded ophthalmologists, cardiologists, and so forth. And where can they get that done inexpensively? And there are these health clinics that are being done all the time. So on the clinics page there, it shows where clinics are being held different parts of the year. And if you look in one here, this one in Agawam, Mass. Is a cardiology clinic, and it shows what's being done and the cost of the tests and so forth. So you can give your clients some specifics there. There's also a very good health test clinic information that's run by a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel club, and I think the URL for that one is in your proceedings. And lastly, we have information for the veterinarians, information on digital submission of radiographs, the current forms for hips and elbows, your thyroid sample instructions, which are specific for the OFA thyroid registry, and then all of your application forms that you need to fill out are available on the website here to print out and have those filled out for your clients. Okay. Another great source of information for genetic tests is the WSAVA Hereditary Diseases database, and this is for DNA-based tests, and the URL is in your proceedings. And this is hosted by PennGen. Dr. Giger is the chair of the Genetic Hereditary Diseases Committee and has put together this database. Name a breed? Bull Mastiff. So if you're looking for what genetic tests are available for Bull Mastiffs, we're going to click under Canine. Nope, I'm going to click under Canine. We're going to click under Bull Mastiff. And what we see here is that you've got genetic tests for multifocal retinopathy and a dominant PRA that are available. And so if you click on that test, it will tell you that it is what the test is, what the disease is. It's an autosomal dominant. It'll show you what laboratories are running that test, so you know where to send the DNA. And if you go to those sites, it'll tell you whether you need to send cheek swabs or blood. And it also will give you a link to the published article that identified that gene and describes that gene more detail, so that you can then give detailed information to your clients about that disorder. Okay. So the Canine Health Information Center is an integral part of the OFA and the OFA website. And what that is, the mission is to provide a source of health information to owners, breeders, and scientists that will assist in breeding healthier dogs. It establishes a breed-specific health screening protocol as recommended by the breed's parent club. So this is where we're talking about every dog doesn't get every single test that's out there. You want to have tests that are very specific to the breed that you're working with. It was initiated in 2001 as a pilot program with 8 participating breeds. Today there are over 140 breed parent clubs participating, with over 65,000 dogs that have met the individual breed requirements and been assigned CHIC numbers. CHIC is about encouraging health testing and awareness. It recognizes those dogs that have completed breed-specific testing. It collects health test results from multiple sources and makes the results available on an online publicly accessible database, being the OFA health registries. It also recognizes the health-conscious breeders. So, and this is what you want to point out to your clients who are looking to purchase a puppy, that they want to look for health-tested parents because that shows health consciousness and that they have a better chance of getting a healthier pet. CHIC is not about normalcy. It is not a stamp of approval for breeding, and it is not an award program. CHIC numbers do not inherently imply normal results. Dogs with abnormal results are eligible for CHIC numbers as well. So a dog gets CHIC certified if it has all of its health tests being done. They don't have to pass every one of those tests. So it's about compliance, and it's about consciousness of health, not necessarily about excellent health for every dog that has a CHIC number. You should use CHIC in your practice to look up pre-breeding health tests for prospective breeding dogs for your clients, and to show your owners looking to purchase puppies what particular tests they should be looking for. So if you go, where's the other side of the, thought we had the CHIC lists here. Where else is the CHIC link? I'm not seeing it on the side there. Oh, there we are. It's on the bottom. Good enough. Okay, so if you go to the CHIC website and you look under CHIC breeds, somebody name a breed. What is it?
Toller.
Okay, Tollers with an N. So you click Nova Scotia Duck Tolling Retrievers. The required breed requirements, and I print this page out right in the exam room and hand it to the owner or the prospective breeder, that these are the requirements as determined by the parent breed club. That they have a hip evaluation, either an OFA, OVC, or a pen hip evaluation. That they have an eye examination by an ophthalmologist registered with OFA, or SURF, which is, SURF is now has the OFA database, and so it's all in one place. They have a PRA test, DNA test from an approved laboratory, and then there's more information on the Tollers at their website. So this is where you would look up the specific health testing for that breed. The CHIC also has a DNA repository, and this is where This is where people can donate DNA from their healthy dogs as well as their sick dogs of any breeds, and that repository, that DNA, is available for future research. So it's a very important component of how we are helping researchers conduct genetic research. Have you heard of CHIC prior to this talk, yes or no? And you can either click yes or no on the web page, or if you're texting, if the answer is yes, you type in chickie, and if the answer is no, you type in chicken. How many DNA samples do we have in the DNA repository? Over 25,000 DNA samples from individual dogs in the DNA repository, and those have been sent out. About over 2,000 samples, well over 2,000 samples have been sent out to researchers for how many different projects, approximately? 30. About 30 plus projects on inherited disease. Okay, and let's look at our answers here. Whoops. Okay, so most of you have not heard of CHIC. So CHIC, I use CHIC in my practice just about every day when looking up what are the specific health testing requirements for a breed. Pre-breeding health screening is like an equine pre-purchase examination. That's the way I look at it. It evaluates the health worthiness of the dog for breeding. If the public demands healthier dogs, then this is where it must occur. So we all hear about, purebreds are sick and they're inbred and so forth, and I'm a general practitioner and practice owner just like you. 50% of our patients are purebred dogs, and they're not all sick. And we see the most common things we see every day in our practice: allergies, arthritis in older dogs, in the hips and other areas, and all these other things that we see. The most common things we see in our mixed breed as well as our purebreds. Now, yes, there are very specific breed-related diseases that we don't see in mixed breed populations, but the frequencies of those diseases tend to be very, very low. But the whole thing about making dogs healthier is not about crossbreeding and outbreeding and those types of things. If you actually want to compare what a outbred population looks like with genetic disease versus a purposefully bred population like our purebreds, all we have to do is look at our cat patients, because 95% of our cats are random bred. And so all we see the same frequent diseases such as FUS and inflammatory cystitis and diabetes mellitus and allergies and all the other things we see in cats, but we see them on a random basis. So all crossbreeding and mixed breeding does is randomizes those common genes so that they appear without warning, without any type of prediction, whereas with purebred animals, we do have some predictability in that disease process. Every dog has a web page. So this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of the OFA. And so on the left-hand side here, you can type in a registration number or a name of any dog. So when a new patient is making an appointment, my staff instructs them to bring all of the paperwork that the breeder gave them, medical, the registration papers, everything. And what we can do is we can look up, if we have the registration number, it doesn't have to be an AKC number, it could be any kind of registry, or the name of the parents, we can look up and see what health testing was done on the parents. We can ask the client, what did the breeder tell you about health testing? If they didn't tell them anything, at least we can look it up. And I want to look up a dog here. So I'll type in the name. Okay, so this is Danik Make My Day. It happens to be a Labrador that's owned by Dr. Smith here. And so this is, what's the dog's name?
Hawk.
This is Hawk's webpage. This is Facebook for dogs, okay? So Hawk has his own webpage. It has his information up here, his birth date, if your client wants to donate $10 to the AKC Canine Health Foundation Donor Advised Fund specifically for the Labrador or whatever breed you choose, you can upload a picture of your dog, so the picture is on his webpage. These are Hawk's health test results. He's got his exercise-induced collapse. He is clear by parentage. We'll describe that in a second. His hips are excellent. His elbows are normal. It shows the age when these were done. Centronuclear myopathy is another DNA test, clear by parentage. His eyes were tested in 09, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and have always been normal. The test for PRA, he's genotypically normal, and the D locus, which is considered a mutation that causes silver Labradors, he is normal or clear, does not carry that dilution locus. So these are the results of his testing right there. Clear by parentage means that both of Hawk's parents were DNA tested for exercise-induced collapse and centronuclear myopathy and were tested normal. So he was able to be certified clear of those genes based on his two parents testing normal. Then what you have on the OFA website is the results of his sire and dam and their test results. And there's a lot more tests that some of these guys have had, and they're all out there. The results of any offspring, if they've been tested, the results of full siblings, results of half-siblings through the sire, and half-siblings through the dam. So it gives complete familial genetic testing information. And for complexly inherited disease, that is very important information to have. And I want to go over a couple other examples of things. So I'm going to type in Okay, so this is actually a Gordon setter that's one of mine, Forrester, and it has all of his information up here, but I want to show you his hips were fair, not the greatest. His elbows, he has unilateral right grade 3 elbow dysplasia with degenerative joint disease. He has DNA in the chick DNA repository donated for research. That's listed up there as well. It has his surf, his cardiac, his patella, dentition. He has full dentition. We have cerebellar degeneration as a genetic disorder. He is clear for that. We have RCD4 PRA. He is clear for that. He had some severe weakness in his hind end as he was older. He's gotten to be 14 years of age. Even though degenerative myelopathy is not known to be seen in the Gordon, sometimes it's very hard to clinically distinguish the weakness of degenerative myelopathy from severe pain from arthritis. And that DM test helped me understand that his issues in his sinking of his hind were more arthritis related than neurological in that way. Here's information on his family. And one thing I want you to notice here of half siblings, here's a dog with moderate hip dysplasia. Here's a dog with mild unilateral left hip dysplasia. It is important to have the good results and the bad results in the OFA website. Otherwise, when breeders are looking up dogs to find breadth of pedigree information, they're not getting the full picture if all you have are the normals. And so it's really important to get the abnormals in there as well. Nobody wants to produce a dog that doesn't pass all of its tests, but in order to help everybody out, we do need to share that information, and it's up to us to try to talk to our clients about that. I want to show you one more dog here, if I can spell the name right. F-A-E-R-A''S. So this is a golden retriever, and we actually used his results in that OFA paper. I want to show you this thing called vertical pedigree up here. The vertical pedigree takes all of that family data down below and consolidates it into a single pedigree. So what we see for this dog is that he had excellent hips, But his sire had fair hips, had 3 siblings tested, 1 good and 2 fair. His dam had good hips, 13 siblings tested, 8 good, 5 fair. His paternal grandsire had fair hips, siblings, 3 good, 1 fair. Maternal grandsire, fair hips, no siblings. Maternal grandsire, good hips, siblings, 2 good, 4 fair, and maternal granddam, fair hips, 17 siblings, 12 good, 5 fair. So looking at the genetic background of this dog, what you're looking at are the genetics of what you would expect for a dog somewhere between good and fair, even though he has an excellent phenotype. This dog was bred heavily. He has 131 offspring in the OFA database, and what we see here is that he had a preponderance of good testing hips, 72, but he had 10 excellents and 38 fairs. So even though most of his offspring were good, he's leaning more towards fair than excellent in what he produces. So his genotype is more representative of his familial data than it is of his excellent phenotype. And this is where looking at this information and helping your breeders understand where they can go to look for this information is very important to assist them in improving the genetic health of their animals. The female absolutely plays a role, and so that, you'd want to know what the average ratings are on the hips of the females as well, but just to show what he's producing over so many litters, producing 131 dogs, we're averaging out the females and showing what he actually is producing. But absolutely, he only contributes 50% to those breedings. So the information here, if you have, let me see, for forms, where is it? Policies. So you can move information to the public domain if there is old results in the OFA website that is not open to the public with those results. But pretty much on all the forms that we fill out, I want to go to application forms. And if we go here to hips, on every single one of our application forms, there is a checkoff here I don't need page 2. There's a checkoff here, authorization to release abnormal results. And so if the test results are not normal, OFA has a semi-open database. It only puts normal results up there unless the owner releases those abnormal results to be put up on the database. So it's something you should talk to about your clients when you're doing any of these OFA evaluations in terms of trying to talk them into releasing the abnormal results. Again, no one breeds and wants to breed dogs that don't have passing results, but as more and more tests come up, very few dogs are going to be totally normal for every single thing. But we can't help breeders help themselves if the information is not out there, especially for complexly inherited disease, where the phenotype of the relatives gives you as much, if not more, information than the phenotype of the individual breeding dogs. Okay, I think we are done there. So our role, and we should embrace our role to educate our clients. So when we talk about the vaccine clinics that are taken over and so much that's taken away from our practice, the bottom line is we provide service, and no one else can do that for our clients if we're not doing it. So we need to educate our clients about the breeding of genetically healthy dogs, about the purchasing of genetically healthy dogs, or hopefully genetically healthy dogs through the parentage. Our greatest asset is the personal service that we provide to our clients. OFA provides the educational resources and tools to assist our clients in this effort. And we are going through a major revamp of the whole OFA website. It's probably going to take about a year to be completely finished, but we're going to try to get more genetic counseling information up there so you can assist your breeder and owner clients with understanding some of the issues with the genetic diseases and what recommendations can be made based on different tests. Some genetic tests are for completely penetrant genes, that it's a simple, normal carrier affected. Some of them are for susceptibility genes, that carrying that gene can cause an increased risk of developing that disease, but it's not a black and white. And we need to know about those differences and be able to talk to our clients about them. On the question that we asked you, whose responsibility is it for the improve the genetic health of animals, veterinarians, breeders, breed organizations, or the public? Everyone has a role, and certainly as veterinarians, we have a role to educate our clients and educate the public. But the bottom line is, and no one's selected public here, but it's the public that can go online and see a pretty picture of a puppy and click it and give them a PayPal and pay for it and have this dog shipped to them sight unseen without any question about health or anything whatsoever. And health testing is health quality control. If America is clamoring for healthy puppies, then and it's not a sexy message to deliver to the public that they have some responsibility in this manner as well. But they're the ones that are driving the engine of purchasing puppies, and if they are not discriminating about what type of puppy they purchase, if they don't spend the same amount of time researching a breeder and a puppy as they do when they buy a TV or a refrigerator, then they really can't expect quality, that they're not introducing quality control into that question of where do I get a puppy from. And that's an important message for us to deliver. Okay, so that is the end of our formal part of the talk today. If you have questions and you want to come up to a microphone, or if you want to just text in a question, we can see your questions up here and answer them. And we thank you all for coming so early this morning to the breakfast. And so anybody with questions?
Jerry?
Yes.
I think that one of the things that happens in our practice is people come in and say they want to buy a particular breed. Can I help them find a breeder? Can you explain how they can do that through OFA and AKC?
One of the best places to send your clients who are looking for a specific breed is send them to the American Kennel Club website, and then from there to the particular parent club. So if they're looking for a golden retriever, you go to the American Kennel Club. They have a place on their website that says, you type in golden retriever, it'll take you to the Golden Retriever Club of America website. All of the parent clubs have breeder lists. And while some of those breeders may not have puppies, they will know people in their area or in different areas that will have puppies that have had appropriate health screening. It's a little more difficult to go to the OFA website and do that. You can certainly look up a kennel name and find the dogs in their clearance, but we don't list the location of those owners. Thank you. There was another question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is sort of the unquality question, and in a way I'm embarrassed actually to ask it.
That's fine.
I work for a practice that happens to have an awful lot of downscale clients who bring in a disappointing number of puppy milk products and what have you. By definition, the damage has already been done. But my question is, very often they will bring in a new puppy they have just bought, and it might be in the first couple of days, it might be in the first week, and there may still be a chance if the puppy obviously to our eyes looks really, really wrong, there might still be a chance they may not be too tightly bonded, etc. What resources do you have that could be of any help with mixed breed or more or less undocumented puppies in order to demonstrate what the likelihood is of problems ensuing?
That's a great question. I believe the question is, the people have already purchased a puppy without doing homework. Now you're the veterinarian and you see this puppy and you recognize the issues that could occur. I think your best bet there is go by what the best guess or what the breeder says it might be. So particularly with these designer breeds, if it's a Cavachon or a Cava something, you can say to that client, we need to monitor this dog, be aware that with Cavalier blood, it's likely at some point in its life to develop some type of a mitral heart murmur, etc., and help them in that way. Certainly, there is no animal or no human that is genetically free of all disease, but there is no website that will say, you know, if you're a Cavachon, you're going to have this. Now, potentially, although it doesn't happen often, you may have people who, with designer breeds, who have done health screening. They may have a Cavalier stud dog and a bunch of assorted other toy breeds, and they may have health screened those. Those dogs potentially could have a good likelihood of, or a better likelihood of having a healthy outcome. And just so you know, the OFA will allow submissions of non-purebred dogs. You are not required to have a registration number with some registry to submit your information. Does that help? Good.
So we have, we feel that health-tested parents produce healthier puppies. So if you have someone that's going to purposefully breed two dogs together, whether it's purebred, whether it's designer bred, whether it's mixed breed, both parents should have, just like an equine pre-purchase exam, a pre-breeding health examination. If it's a small breed, cardiac, patella, just the general stuff we know that those types of dogs can be prone to, and try to weed out any individuals that may be affected with certain disorders. And I think that's very helpful. When you type in a name of a dog, when you're getting puppy information from a new client and nothing comes up on the OFA website, what we have to tell our client is that it does not look like your breeder was a health conscious breeder because there's no health testing done. Now, and we say it's not necessarily just because it's not on the OFA website. They may have done health testing and you should ask them, and here's the checklist of the pre-breeding health tests that should have been done on that dog. And we have a question up here on the screen, why should I encourage my clients to send in abnormal results? And the first answer is that it does take a village, and people know what tests are being done and not. And if a dog is being used for breeding, people are going to look up that dog's OFA page, and if they don't see anything, they're going to assume that that dog has hip dysplasia or is affected. And that's the same thing that I say to my clients, is that if a dog was already bred and the testing wasn't done, then either you don't have a health-conscious breeder or it failed those tests and the breeder did not send in the information because of the failing. So you can't consider a dog's going to be normal unless you see those normal health results.
Yes. No. The question is there a way on our website to look up an actual breeder versus an actual pet? No, the answer to that is no. If they, though, have a kennel name, and many of these people in their advertisements do, there's a kennel in Minnesota that is called Love My Labs, who, trust me, does not do many health testing. But if you happen to look up Love My Labs, who produces hundreds of Labrador puppies per year, you will find maybe one or two dogs. If you were to look up my kennel name, which is Danik, you'll see all of the Danik dogs that I've had for 35 years of breeding that have health testing. And you'll see abnormal results, because if I do have a dog with abnormal results, I'll post them.
In the search box, we did simple searches on names right now. Right below that it says advanced search, and your breeders can actually put in, I want to see all of the Labradors that have normal hips, normal elbows, pass their eye exams, that are in the breeding age, whatever other test results, and hit enter, and it will list all the dogs that qualify for those standards. And then if you recognize, or your breeder client recognizes dogs on that list, they may want to decide who they're going to use as a stud dog, or if they don't know who that is, they can Google the name of the dog, and if people are advertising, they're probably going to find whose dog that is anyway. So it's a way to search in that way. Someone asked, what is the general practice veterinarian's role in interpreting OFA films beyond ensuring quality images for submission?
I'd like to answer that. I would like to answer that because I'm a boarded theriogenologist. However, in our practice, we do lots of OFA hips. And so when we have a film properly positioned, we show it to the client, and I say, now realize, in my opinion, this dog's hips look like, based on what I see in this practice, I predict they will get a whatever. But I say, realize 3 board-certified radiologists may have a different opinion because it is based on breed and age of dog. So the bottom line is their result stands. Now, I will tell you that most of the time I'm okay. But recently, I radiographed a black Russian Terrier. And so the breeder said, so what do you think? I said, based on my N of 1 on this black Russian Terrier, I believe he has normal hips. I have no idea what grade they will give him. If he were a Labrador, he'd get a fair, because we tend to do a lot of Labradors. So I would say be sure your film is well positioned and point out to your client that if you're confident in your positioning, the radiologist will come up with the right answer.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, you're a generalist and you're sending this to 3 specialists, and you don't want to put yourself too far out on the line with your clients so that when it comes back, if you're wrong, it makes you look bad, or that you have to come up with some kind of excuse. The bottom line is, you know, and we all want to give a rating. I won't even give a rating. I say, to me, it looks passable, but we need to see what the radiologists are going to say. And to me, it's easier to say that with hips than with elbows, because I'm still difficult in seeing the grade 1 lesions in elbow dysplasia. But when I call up, if you ever have a question about the rating on a radiograph, you just call up the OFA and Dr. Keller will get on the phone with you, and he'll pull it up on his screen, and you can look at that radiograph and he'll walk you right through where the lesions are. And when he points them out to me, I can see them, but then 5 days later when the client comes back in, I have to remember where those lesions are because, again, I'm not a radiologist.
Can you tell me what the causative factors could have been in a hip dysplasia submission that had a different result within 6 months of a 4-year-old mature dog for a mild degenerative hip dysplasia in one side and to a good rating 6 months later? And the dog was sedated and we used positioners. So
both sets of films were taken at your practice?
no.
Okay. I would say it would be suspicious to me that there was dog swapping, particularly if there was degenerative joint disease. I will tell you that there is a process by which we try to detect all cheats, but there is no system that is totally cheat-proof. If, in fact, both sets of films had been taken at your practice and there was 6 months difference and there was no degenerative joint disease present on the first film, it is based on breed and age. So it is possible, say for a Labrador who is 25 months of age, films are submitted, they get a fair, he's re-x-rayed 6 or 7 months later at the same practice. It is possible and reasonable that that dog could improve based on dogs of that age and get a good. But in the case you're telling me, I would be suspicious of dog swapping.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question. I have a purebred AKC pedigree beagle. Can I use her AKC number to look her up? So in that quick field where I was typing in the names of dogs, you can type in an AKC number or any registration number. That's what I usually do when I'm looking at a pedigree of a client's in the room. I'll just type in the number and put that in and click it, and it'll tell us if there are any records in there or not from that particular dog. And do you have any data regarding the number of pets tested versus AKC registration, i.e. how many pets are being tested versus being bred? I don't think we have any numbers on that. We do see, and we do encourage the testing of pets, because if an owner has a pet dog, and you know that they're not show dog quality, but they love their dog, they want to breed it, and they want to do the right thing. So you look up on Chick what the pre-breeding test requirements are, you give it to them, and they go through and they do their testing, and they get it up on the website, and they look to breed to a dog that has its test requirements, so they're being health conscious, and they're up there. So we hope we'll see more and more of that, because it isn't just a show dog thing, it's for the health of all of dogs that we're looking at here.
I can tell you in Labradors, less than 10% of the Labrador puppies that are born, or Labradors that are born and registered every year, ever have health testing. So less than 10%. Remember, this is a voluntary event in this country, but you can help increase the volunteerism.
Okay. Well, our time is up. We thank. Do we have one last question?
In regards to one of the comments about the x-rays themselves, about probably 30-some years ago, I sent in x-rays for a Doberman, and it came back that not only, and I didn't realize this at the time until I got the results back, the x-rays themselves were graded, not just the dog's pictures, but the quality of the film. So I was very pleased at that. And the other thing was that the dog got, as far as the hips, it was fine. But they noticed some degenerative effects up in the spine, which I then could relate to the owner. So I was very pleased with that, seeing as how I used a 10, only the 10 amp equine x-ray machine. But I was taught by Dr. Reiser to be very fussy. So I had the dog anesthetized, and it took 5 times till I was satisfied before I sent him in.
Good. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.